Hey guys, I'm back with the next video. Sorry this fucking took so long. A lot of shit just went down and got distracted and took me some time, but here we are. We're gonna get down to it, so there we go. Once you get Tray Importer download, go ahead and just open it just so you can kind of get a feel of what it looks like to begin with. You're gonna have to the left here all your Sims, houses, rooms, anything that would be in your tray folder, or, well, same thing, but in your personal Sims gallery, which can get a little confusing if, like me, you never empty that folder and it's just a wasteland. I mean, most of my files are, so who are we kidding at this point? Now, once we've taken a little tour, we're going to go ahead and open up The Sims 4 just so we can get a feel of setting up a scene. Well, not really setting it up, but going in and just getting all the CC you're going to want, and then we'll move on to how to then get that out of Sims 4 Tray Importer. Now, if you already have the CC you want out, like say you went and downloaded it all specifically for a set you're going to do, go ahead and skip this step. You're not going to have to go into the Sims. You just need to copy and paste those package folders, or if you already have copies of them, use those. Since I take from my mods folder, I tend to just make copies, so I'm not losing the originals, of course. And you're going to paste them into your props folder if you made in your render folder, if you followed my last tutorial and made one of those. The other thing I suggest is in the props folder, we'll go in here to mine real quick, make a folder called packages. That way they're always on their own and you're not getting confused with the PNGs and the blend files. You don't have to. Here is the one time I'm organized. Certain things drive me nuts. So yeah, this is how I deal with those few things. I'm going to go ahead and cut here while the Sims loads up because I have over, or at least close to 100 gigs of CC. So it can take a little bit. We'll come back when this is loaded all up. Okay, just wanted to go over something real quick. Obviously, we all know how to add props for specific poses. However, you can put them on your sim now, which is the best. I advise doing that. However, if you have like a piece of CC that you really want to wear, but the like handheld object or something conflicts, like say that lantern thingy conflicted with a hat she was wearing or something, what you can do is download the object from like how we're going to do the other things, and then armature it to the stigmata joint in Blender. Now, it takes a lot more effort that way because it won't always line up. You'll have to it'll still be attached to that joint, but sometimes it'll like stay part of the way over on the screen. So you kind of have to adjust it back into their hand, but it still works. And it gives you a little bit of a like base point. So it's not just on the ground having to move it, it's still attached. Then however, if you do it here, like, oh goodness, I'm not going to try and search them all, but if you put it on here, like nothing's conflicting, it's way easier because then it just acts like it normally would in game. I'm guessing if you're watching this, you've played The Sims before, you know how to decorate a lot, you know how to build everything. I went ahead last night and put together some of the stuff I wanted so we wouldn't have to sit here going through all the items. And I've kind of done with a outdoor deck kind of theme, not necessarily using the new pack. However, I am using this tree, and the new pack is really cool, or kit, excuse me. Everything's super pretty, and it's vibes, you know? Also, if you want to watch somebody embarrass themselves, this is the video for you. I am quite awkward, so that makes all of this very interesting. Okay, back to the point. once you've got you don't have to, you can build it the way you want so that you have an idea of how you're going to set it up in Blender. I don't always do that and just kind of wing it once I get into Blender, but I digress. That's up to you. Once you've finished building it and everything, you're going to go ahead and, like you normally would, to save to your library. Save lot. You don't have to do anything. You're just saving it so it shows up in Tray Importer. So we're going to go ahead, and if you watched the last video, do this all in once. Make your sim, get everything ready, make your lot. Then you don't have to go in and out of the game every time. Make sure you save and exit, obviously. And we will pick back up at Sims Tray Importer. Okay. Now, more than likely, the first one's there is going to be the one you just built. So we're going to go ahead and open it. And then we're going to go to CC, obviously. And this is one of the longest parts, especially if you have a lot of merged folders, because we're also going to learn how to unmerge files. Anyways, while you're in here, what you're going to do is, I like to have both of my folders open. Let me pop over to the props packages folder. So easiest way I've figured out to do it. If you have an easier way, go ahead and comment it. I would love that, but this takes forever, and it's the only way I found to make it work. Just select your CC, right click on it, show containing folder, and then what I just do is copy paste. Copy from here, paste it into your packages folder. Pretty simple. It's just really time consuming. Now, if you have a merged folder or file like this one, that's where we're going to need Sims 4 Studio to unmerge the package. Now, I will warn you, some of the older merged files aren't able to be unmerged. I don't know of another way to unmerge them, so you're kind of SOL for that unless you can go back to that creator and they have them the files unmerged. I've only ran into it a few times. It's usually when say someone's shared a sim or lot with you. I've noticed that it's usually just other people's merged CC, so it's easier for their computers to load. I don't really care. It's easy. It's not really a problem. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do all of this, and we will cut back when I'm finished. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and try unmerging. So you're going to, in Sims 4 Studio, go up to Content Management, and then Unmerge Packages. I made a folder in props called Merge, just so it's easier to deal with, because it makes a folder of all the unmerged files. So I like to just have it in its own folder. So go ahead, navigate there. I put the package file in there as well. So go ahead, unmerge, and then boom, you have a folder of all the packages that were in there. Now, if you may have saw when I was in my lot, you may have seen that some of the stuff I put there wasn't CC. It was either from the kits or a pack or base game or anything. So if you want to get those out of Sims 4 Studio, if you've used it before, it's just like making CC. You gotta go find the object, make it a package folder, so on and so forth. So I know for sure I used one of the new trees from the patio kit. I can't remember the exact name for it now, but this tends to take a little bit when it sorts through all the different game packs, so we'll give it a minute. There we go. Oh shit, I forgot. I didn't update. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to get that tree out, but if it was there, you'd just click on there. I just haven't updated. Actually, I don't know if the studio has an update yet for the new kit, but anyways, I had a bunch of other stuff out of Get Together, so we'll just go here for now. For examples, I'm going to show you 3 different kinds. I'm going to show you a plant, because they tend to have multiple textures that need to be exported differently. And then something that's glass or a vase, something that just needs to be transparent. And then, of course, just a normal, easy to do object. So this is one of the ones I used. So we'll go click on it, hit next. I just name it like something stupid at first, like flowers. And then when it comes up, then I just copy and paste the object's actual name that it has in Studio. I'm just going to call it Studio because I don't want to say the whole name every single time. Okay, so I can't move those because those are for a project I'm currently working on. And if I move them, when I open the Blender file, it will freak out and not know where any of those are. So we're just going to leave those there for now. To make it a little bit easier for us, though, oh, I did make this folder. So I made this folder last night to make it easier for us and just made a tutorial folder. So we've got a plant here. So this is actually going to play into, no, it shouldn't have any transparency. It'll be the plants, but it's a single plant. I will show like tree. That's one that I know tends to have like 3 different parts. So with this will be a single one. You only got to deal with one texture. Make sure it's selected. And then this bottom export here, go ahead and export. And then this is going to be the PNG. I already copied the name. So then you go ahead and save. Obviously that part's pretty simple. And then meshes, don't change anything. I can't remember why, but I read or watched something that said don't change the LODs. So we're not going to change them. Gonna go ahead and export it just like we did the texture. Name it, and bada bing. We are done with that part. I will go back and let's see if we can find like a flower base or something. Actually, we're gonna rename this package file real quick too. There. Okay. Let's see if we can find some glass. See, now I can't even remember if one of the things I put out there had. Well, here, let me just. I already have one pulled out. That's a vase of flowers. When we get into Blender, I'll import that in and show you, because I don't think I had any sort of vases in this one. Now we're going to go for a tree. So I just use the base game ones. It's usually easier. And the nice thing is you can just type in tree and it actually will pick them up. I didn't think that was going to happen, and I was really excited when it actually worked, because I was like, this isn't going to work. It's not going to know what trees are. It's not going to know that it's in the name. Boy, was I wrong. So we'll go with the oak tree here. I don't really care because I'm not going to use it, but oak tree. Should start inputting the Jeopardy soundtrack whenever I'm not talking. That would be interesting. Or song, not the whole soundtrack. Okay, so here is where I mean that there's different textures. So obviously you can see this is for the base of the tree. This one's for the branches of the tree. They're kind of hiding in there. And then all the leaves. So there's only one mesh. You just have to make sure you place the textures on the right parts of the mesh. And I will explain that when we get into Blender, because there's a whole other piece to getting the objects out of their blend file. So we're going to go ahead and name them again. I try and add things that'll help, like this is going to be the base of the tree. Whoop. And then branches. I just use the same name. And then I have to hold the little mic I bought because clipping it to my shirt isn't working. So I'm having fun typing with one hand. And so Here we go. Last one. Leaves. Okay. So now we've got all that. And that's how you'd go and get stuff from in-game that isn't CC. Now, let's go in. And so you'll go to My Projects this time. And then navigate back to Packages. And here is where we will start taking out what we need. So it'll open it as it was already made, just like the other one looks. Same process here. Export the texture. Steal the name so it's easier. And then the mesh again. And you're done. And that'll be the same process for everything. I'm going to speed through all of these real quick and I'll be back. Haha, I was able to do it again. Recorded a whole section with my mic muted. I think this is just going to be a staple every single time. So what I was going over was wallpapers, flooring, and the terrain paints. I already went and saved them, so I'm not going to save them again, but we'll just go through the steps. So I'll do terrain paint first since I just did it, but it's super, super easy. You just pick the one you want. We just did stone path here. I'm just going to copy over it. And it looks just like this. It's just a single texture. Not really doing anything much else with it. Pretty simple to get out. Now walls and floors are very similar. This is the one I did earlier. Just a tile wall. Kind of helps show what the pattern. How the small, medium, large can affect the pattern. Okay, so here in our textures area, we got a few more things to work with this time. So I always go with tall because it just gives you the most room and the most of the pattern to work with, in my opinion. I could be very wrong. I just like to use it this way. You can go ahead and choose whichever one you want. The process for exporting them is going to be the same. So we'll start off with the diffuse. You're going to hit export. And you're going to obviously go ahead and save it. So I have done all three here. And you're going to export each one individually. And here they all are. I give them a little name each time so I'm not getting confused. Even though they look different, it's easier to just see the name because sometimes you don't have the pictures showing in Blender and it's easier to go by name. So we've got all those. And the flooring is going to look identical to the walling. Wall, not flooring. So here we'll just, yes, I know. Same thing, but no height differences obviously because it's just flooring. So yeah, name them the same way or however way you want. Now a caveat to this is, I believe it's the spec maps. I can't remember. It just happened to me a while ago and I had to figure it out. if you have both a wallpaper and a flooring with their spec maps, it can sometimes make one of the textures go black and just not show anything. What I've learned is you just unhook the specular from one of the two and they'll both show back up. And if you want, you can, there's a slider bar for the specular, and I'll show that when we get in Blender, but you can just mess around with that one to get it all fixed. Now I'm going to go ahead and extract out all the poses that I'm going to be using. And if you watched my last video, you know how to do that. So I'm going to just speed through that real quick and I'll be back when it's done. Okay, now we're going to finally hop into Blender. I also wanted to add, I didn't touch on this, but instead of using a wallpaper, you can use like just normal pictures like PNGs or stuff. I go into the game sometimes and take screenshots and then I'll use that as a backdrop, or just go Google like random patterns and stuff and then see what I vibe with, and yeah. So we'll go ahead and open Blender and you can just click the background and it'll start the general file. Now if you've seen my previous video, you kind of know what we're doing here. Make 2 new collections. Don't do what I did. Make a Sims one like we did before, and then now we're gonna make a props one, which basically gonna do the same thing. Now, let's see. We'll size up our cube while we're here. Since you're using a lot of furniture, or you can be using a lot of furniture, I like to just scale it up pretty far and then deal with it as it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and take the face off again. And we got our box. Okay. Let's go ahead and do our first prop. Let's just do the tree, because that one is the most complicated and it gives us a good way to explain the different objects or meshes in the object folder, which we're about to go to. So we'll go to our props and then we're gonna go to our, I didn't put it in there. Great. There we go. Okay. So when you go in, you'll get this whole long list. It's kind of just like the same one with the poses. Go into object, and now with the tree, you're definitely going to need all 3 of these. Some objects will have just the 0, some will have 2, and some will have even more. Typically, it only needs 1. There are some instances where there's 2 pieces, 3 pieces, so on and so forth. Some of the simpler ones I'll show as I get there that just need like 1. So for now, I do them one by one just to make sure. So there we got the base. And then we've got I think that ends up being the leaves if I remember right. Oh no, those are the leaves. The branches were before. Okay, now we don't need any of these, so we are going to delete them all. Now what I like to do is rename them, so I'll go base, branches, and leaves. And now before how we were doing the Sims eyelashes and their like texture, we're going to go into the shader editor again. Now, it doesn't already have the node set up because there's just, it doesn't know, whereas with the Sim it kind of already has the PNGs and textures and everything there. So we kind of got to build this from the ground up. So we're going to go on the right side here, click use nodes. Now you can do most of it from over here. It's too complicated for me. I like to just have the big visuals. Makes it a little easier. So the one time I use over here is just to get this set up, and then we go back over to the more search bar stuff. So base color, change it to image texture, then that just shows up. It makes it easier so then you don't have to go click, drag, bring the image texture down. Now it seems like they're going to need different ones, but they all use the same. Now we're going to go grab the PNGs for each different part of the tree and get it all put together. So since we don't have spec maps for like this stuff, and it makes stuff look kind of shiny for some, just makes it look silly. Take that all the way down. I take roughness all the way up, but then if it's like glass or something that you'd know would be kind of shiny and reflective, I put a little bit of the I take away a little bit of the roughness so that it gets somewhat of a little light reflection on it, but otherwise you don't really need to. So that one's the easy one. Now with the branches and the leaves, it gets a little confusing. I'm going to hide that so we can see what's going on. Same steps, use node, change to image texture, but now we're going to do that same process that we did with the eyelashes to the tree. So add and look for your mix shader, and then the transparent one, and literally just hook it up the same way. The transparent one to the top shader, the principal to the bottom shader, and then the alpha from the image texture over to the FAC part. Go ahead and grab the texture now. And it's going to look a little silly, but that's where we got to come over here like we did the eyelashes and go alpha hashed. It looks weird now, but once you're in game and like not in game, in the render view, it looks a little better. So now we'll deal with the leaves, last and final one. Gonna do the same thing with the leaves that you did with the branches. Our mix shader again. And the transparent again. And there we have our tree. Do this, yeah, don't forget to do that stuff. It'll make the tree look a little bit more real. But once you go into cycles or the other ones, it looks a little different. And it looks better once it's rendered. I don't know why it looks so bad here, but I haven't had a problem with them once I render, so who knows. Once you get all the textures on, I highly suggest joining them to make them one object, or you're going to have to play the fun game of moving one and trying to get it to match every single time. So to do that, go ahead and, okay, we're going to try clipping it on my sweatshirt because I can't type. Okay, hope you guys can still hear me well. Control click them all, so you select them all, and then you can't have your mouse over here. Bring your mouse into this part and do Control J, and then you got one whole thing. There we go. Now we have a whole tree for an object, and we're good to go. We'll go ahead and move that to the side. Now I'm going to show you glass. It's pretty much the same as the tree. Let's go back to tutorial. Of course, it's going to be real tiny. So here is a case where I believe we didn't need one of these. Well, we're not gonna move it because then we gotta, yeah. If I move it now, then you gotta move all three. So see how there's this layer on the bottom, the little square? That's what happens with some of the other objects. They'll have like the little, I think it has something to do with the shadow for it in the game. I'm not really sure what it has to do here. I just delete it every time because I've, again, never figured out what it does, and it doesn't seem to affect anything. So go ahead and delete that one since you're not going to need it. Get rid of the rig and the bone shape again. And same process. We're going to open up down here so we can see what we're doing. Use our nodes again. It's going to be another image texture. Now this one, you're going to use the same texture for both. It seems weird, but it knows what it's doing. And then, because we can kind of see the little black edges there that are from the texture itself. Why again, we do the mix shader, transparent again, make everything look right. There we go. Okay, and then for the glass, the base part, same thing. Try to do them as quick as I can so we're not spending too much time doing the same thing over and over again. Now, as you start to learn these two, you'll figure out where they are. Like mix shader and transparent are both under shader, and then of course texture has the image texture and so on and so forth. There we go. And again, it's got the little dots, but it happens. It's just, yeah. Actually, let's test something out real quick. I haven't done this before, but there is a glossy, or glass. Oh, that's right. We got to set it up a whole different way. Never mind. Maybe we'll go into a deep dive and figure out how to make glass a little bit easier. I've tried tinkering it with it on my own, like in my, if you saw my magic book poses with the little orb, I made a little glass ball, which was a little confusing, but it wasn't too bad. So maybe we'll try and kind of dig into that a little bit more. So now that we've got everything set, we're going to join them again so that you just have the one object. Now we're good to go. And last, we're just going to do a normal one, something that it's way easier. You don't have to do anything extra. It's just the image texture. This one should be fairly easy. It's just a little poof. So here's the three. I'm going to open them all so we can kind of see why we don't need some of them. Oops, let's name this. So again, we've got the random square that we don't need. I don't even know what that one is because there's nothing showing up. So obviously we don't need those two. We've just got our poof and use nodes again. For this one, you don't necessarily have to open this up, but I like to see what I'm doing. And there you go. Take down the specular, put the roughness up a little bit, and you've got your poof, or I mean whatever object you're making with it. Trying to think. Let's go ahead and do the flooring wallpapers, and then I'm going to mute myself and do a quick decorate, and then we'll come back with the sim and kind of how to pose it around in the scene. And also some lighting. I know some people had some questions about the lighting from my last video. I'll try and talk about that a little bit more here and how I just play around with it. I really don't have any techniques. When you create it, there's always the first light. I just copy and paste however many of those I need and then just start moving them around. For instance, I'll literally put it in the render engine I'm going to use, and then just, how does it look here? Okay, the shadows look better on this side, and just kind of tinker with it as I go. Okay, so for the wallpapers, pretty similar process to what we're doing, except we're going to be in the cube now. So we won't be leaving this area for a bit. What we're going to do is down into the materials. We're going to leave just the base one, that way it doesn't change everything as you change that one. So we'll add a new one, and we're going to name it tile, so we know what we're dealing with. And it's going to be another image texture. And now it's not going to be applied yet because we haven't told it to go anywhere. So for that, we need to go into edit mode where we can select each of the faces like before, and then click on the one you want to, whichever face you're going to add it to, click on your material and hit assign. Now, this looks funny. This is honestly what took me a couple weeks of just ignoring it and then finally taking the time to figure out what I was doing wrong. And that is the fact that you need a mapping node and a texture coordinate node. I didn't know about that. So we're going to search up mapping, and it's going to be this big purple one, and then texture coordinate. Now the best one is UV, and connect it over here to the vector, and then vector to vector again. And first we're going to change the scale so we can kind of see what we're doing a little bit better. Obviously, to make it smaller, we're going to use negatives. That doesn't look as great, so let's see what we got. If you click and drag as you go, it'll actually change all the values down here as well. Meant to say that. Now we're going to rotate it. This is weird. I'm not liking how it stretched this one out. I haven't had a problem like this before with any of the ones I've used. It's interesting. No, that doesn't fix it. Well, let me pause real quick and grab a different one that I know worked for me recently. Okay. These ones should work. I remember literally just using them recently, so okay. Now we made it too big because I was trying to mess around with the other one, so let's bring it down a little bit. That's fine. Now we're going to do -90. We get it the right way. And now you can play around with these. You Don't really need Z, you just kind of need X and Y. Yeah, just kind of move it around until it fits how you want. I'm not going to mess around too much with it, but yeah. If you want it rotated more, you kind of just change the Z. Don't mess with these two. Every time I do it, stretches it weird. And then, yeah, the scale, like I said, if you click in it and drag down, you'll highlight all three, and it'll change all three at a time, so you don't have to sit there and mess around with it. Now, for the specular and normal maps that I was talking about, the easiest kind of way to do that, so you're not putting in multiple image textures, like having to do it, you can just drag and drop. Whoop, we're in poses. So we've got them here, so just click, I think we use tall, click and drag, and they'll just show up down in there. And then, so the normal goes down here to this bottom normal, and then the spec here, we're going to minimize it just so it's easier, goes up to specular. Now, you also need to attach to each vector point, or these two images won't scale, so you can't really see the other two images, but it'll look funny shadow wise, so just, yeah. Now if you get the black texture from having two of, I'm like 90% sure it's the spec map, just unhook it and don't use it on one of them, and then it'll go away. Flooring is literally the exact same. You could literally just have the same setup and just change the images, and you're good to go for the flooring. You'll just want to make a new texture, and select obviously the one you're going to use for a floor. Terrain paint is also the same, except you're not using these two. You're still going to use your map and your texture coordinate to resize and everything. We'll do that. Actually, real quick, let's make a new one. I can't spell. You'll realize that soon. Now, I think we grabbed the stone path. Yes. Or no. Which one did we get? That was terrain paint. Oh, where'd it go? And then we're going to do the same thing. Select the face we want it on and assign it. And this is what I mean by it still looks stretched out too. And you're going to want to, since we don't have the maps, just do them on your own. Again, 0, 1. Now we got to add our mapping. And texture coordinates. Okay, UV to vector, and we're good. Now we're going to try minimizing again. Let's go 3 first. Whoops. Not bad. Let's keep going. Even better. That looks better. That looks closer to what it looks like when you paint it on in The Sims. So there you go. Basically the same process for each 3. It's just the wallpaper and flooring have the 2 extra images. You don't even have to use those. That's totally up to you. It'll look the same. I think it just deals with the shadows a little bit differently. So there's that. Let's see what else we can go over real quick before I quick build the set and then show the sim. I don't think there's anything else. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and go ahead and import the rest of these props, and I'll be back when they're all in. So as you can see here with the lights, all I really do is go into that first collection and kind of copy and paste as many as I need. Even if I don't have as many as I need in the beginning, I just keep copying, pasting from the same one. I really don't know why I decided to try and actually make these string lights. Took a good 5-10 minutes just to get them all positioned right, but hey, it looks cool. In the little tab here where the light bulb is, you can see you can change the color, the power. Those are really the only two I fuck around with, just because I don't really get what the other ones do, and those two seem to work fine for me. Once you have your lights, it's really all about trial and error. You'll see that as this keeps going, that I literally just keep trial and erroring until it looks the way I want, and then I kind of just go from there. Yeah, I'll let this finish up and we'll be back when it's all done. Okay. Now that we've got all of our props in and everything's looking kind of how we want it, we're going to bring in the sim. Now, I already brought in one. I have two versions of the same sim in case it doesn't look right in one of the outfits or something. I don't know. Sometimes I just have two for one. So, go over a little recap of importing the sims. It's make sure you've got your little sim container and you're selected on it. Then we're going to go File, Import, and then this one. And then just double click and it's there. Like last time, we delete the lamp because there's no purpose. And then I rename them to what they are. Now, because I could use them interchangeably, that's why I like to do them both at the same time. I will select both and then resize them. Whoa there. Size them both up so I'm not trying to later on size one up to match this one. No, they're just the same. And we'll go ahead and just bring her up here. And I'm gonna move this one out of the way now, and I'll deal with fixing her eyelashes and everything if we get to that point. So if you remember everything, we gotta go and do the specular stuff. And then the eyelashes one. Don't forget, this is the little more involved one where you gotta do the mix shader and the transparent thing. Connect, and then don't forget we gotta do the opaque to alpha hash down here, and we are good to go. Now from here, it's kind of just like my last tutorial. Pose your sim, take your pics, your renders, and you're kind of good to go. I will do like a not speed run, but speed video here of me posing and getting a couple renders down. Before I do that, I forgot to talk about in the settings, oh goodness, let me see if I can remember where they are now. Edit, then preferences. Now, depending on your graphics card, you want to come down to system and possibly mess around with these. This is the one that works for mine. As you can see, if you have a similar graphics card, that one should work. I think that's just the one for all NVIDIA cards. I could be very wrong. Never take my directions as what word do I want to use? As law? I don't know. Half the time I'm talking out my ass trying to figure this out on my own. So there we are. Now, the other thing I didn't talk about was, I don't think I talked about denoising. That's a whole nother ball game. It's gonna make your renders take maybe twice as long. I've noticed that if I have that checked, no matter what I've got going on here in the sampling, it takes twice as long. I use it because then I don't necessarily have to go as high in the sampling here. It'll kind of fix that out, but it's all up to you. After that, I don't think I talked about these tiles down here. If I did, ignore this part, but you can mess around with these. All that does is change how many tiles are sampled at one time. I'll give a little example here. We just see how big these squares are. That's the 256. The standard is 64 is I think what it loads you in at. Some video said that if you had them bigger, it made it go faster. I have not noticed that. Here's the little bit smaller of tiles. Yeah, it's really up to you what you want to do. You can mess around and see what combo of everything comes out looking the best for you and go with that. That's kind of what I've done. Just figured out exactly kind of how I like everything set up, and then I pretty much use it for all renders moving forward. So now that we've got all that covered, I am going to speed pose here, and I will be back when I'm done. And with all that, this video is wrapped. Thank you guys for watching and asking me to do another one. Like, glad you guys weren't annoyed by the first one and that you guys liked it. I have no idea what other videos I could make, if you guys even want that. Suggest that in the comments or on Tumblr or wherever you can find me. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm not going to say I'll see you in the next one, so bye for now.